Go ahead and get started here. I'm going to go ahead and mute some of the lines here. Perfect. Yeah, good morning, everybody. It's good to see a lot of people on today's call. I definitely appreciate this audio, and I definitely appreciate you guys popping on here to learn a little bit more in this discussion. I think that I chose this audio simply because with it being in our first night pack, this is something that we're going to be sharing a lot with other people. And I mean, Life Leadership chose it as being one of the 2 audios that they put in the first night pack. So knowing this stuff inside out and hearing others' perspectives on what they took away from it is going to give you a good judge. Like when you're handing it to other people and other people are listening to it, you're going to have a good idea of some things that they might be having coming to mind. It addresses some of the common concerns that people have with network marketing as a whole. Has a lot of good statistics in here, and I know when I've heard it explained to me, basically that the 2 audios that were chosen in there. See what people popping on here. The reason that these 2 are chosen was we have Dan and Lisa in the first night pack talking about maybe a little bit more of the emotional side of this business, while Rob Robson in this one brings a lot more of the statistics and the hard facts and a lot of the numbers and the logic behind a lot of what's going on with what we do here in Life Leadership and why someone would get involved with this. Hence why we're showing it after someone has either seen a plan or heard a little bit about it or wants to know a little bit more about it. And so I'm going to start off with a couple of just the quick take-homes that I got from it right off the bat. I mean, Rob opens up and talks about a little bit about how making money and the view of making money is basically a receipt for service. You know, we're collecting money, whether we be talking about income of any sort, but especially when in sales, is that we are paid basically by moving a product that brings value to a group or a population. And whether we be looking at having a high value product or a high cost product, I should say, and working with a few people, or whether we're looking to have a little bit of revenue come in from a lot of people, which is one of the real strengths of network marketing, is that we get to leverage little bits of effort from a lot of people rather than having to depend on a handful of people to do the majority of work. That's really where one of the real leverage points comes in this industry. It's one of the reasons that I'm actually here, is to help a lot of people make a difference in their lives. So, and the reasons that I chose this audio, like I kind of already mentioned, is just that it gives a great explanation of a lot of the common questions that people have about network marketing. Gives a lot of the explanation about the reasons people choose Life Leadership specifically, or why they should choose Life Leadership. And basically, one of the quotes that I thought, and since we're talking a lot about money and opportunity, is that money can be used to free you from what you have to do, so that you can go and do what you're called to do. And that's a quote just right out of there, or what you're passionate about. Quote right from Rob there, and really that's why we're here, is that we want to create something that creates a passive income stream. We're passionate about helping others here, and we're also passionate about improving ourselves so that we can better help others and become basically bigger levers for other people to use as resources. And by doing so, I mean, look, we've got 17 people on this call right now. By all of us looking to plug in and improve our skill sets, then we're going to be able to help more people in the long run through the leverage that this industry creates. So, I mean, I took a fair amount of notes actually on this one, because there are so many great things in here. But without me going into a lot of kind of, I guess, what I thought about it, other than this introduction, I'd love to hear some of the things that you guys went ahead and took away from this audio as you listened to it. So let's actually kind of start right there after this brief intro. Who has something that they'd like to share that they really thought was either profound or really made a big difference for them in this audio? Any hands going up? Yeah, I can sit here and talk for a half hour, but I'd much rather hear what you guys have to say. John, let me go ahead and unmute yourself.
Morning, everybody. So, I like both facts of Rob and what he pointed out, and Dan and stuff, and really talking about your dreads and overcoming those obstacles. And it was funny because I've been wanting to get this, but this became the book of the month. And I don't know if you guys can read it, but I just got my book from Napoleon Hill, Thinking and Growing Rich. They both, Dan and Rob, and a lot of other speakers refer to it, and I've taken a lot of notes, and it's like, I just got to read this book. So, those are the things that Laura and I, we got to make sure that our dream is big enough constantly so that our obstacles don't overshadow our dream. And that was a very big point from our last seminar. So, anyways, that's really what I had to say. I just, I'm excited to read this next book. So that was it.
Perfect. Well, I appreciate you sharing there, John. And yeah, go ahead and mute your microphone there. Yeah, Think and Grow Rich. I mean, that is, talk about a classic book. I mean, they mention it in this audio specifically. And when you think about, think about what Napoleon Hill, what his life must have been like at that time and the mission that he was on. I mean, he literally took 20 years of his life to go and interview 300 plus different very successful people in order to try and put together what is an enormous puzzle of trying to figure out what success really means and what it takes to succeed. So the amount of knowledge that's compact into those couple hundred pages, I mean, that's decades and decades and actually hundreds of years of experience. You're talking about 300 people that have probably all put in their 10,000 plus hours to master a craft. I mean, talk about so much positive, so much reinforcing, so much unbelievable information as far as what it can do for your personal growth. That, I mean, what a classic. I've got to be very thankful for Napoleon and his journey there. Who else has something that they'd like to chip in? I'm going to start calling on people. Okay, Jay, you're getting called on.
No problem. Yeah, there's so much in that that audio that I don't know what to cover specifically. It's I mean, he gets into almost everything in that thing, and it is such a great audio for somebody that's brand new looking at it for the first time. That's why they put it in that first night pack. I know. I mean, one of the things that he covers about living within your means, below your means, actually, is what he talks about. You can make a lot of money and everything else, but if you don't live with it below your means, then you'll spend more than you make, and it's a whole lot harder. But also, he talks about when you start doing that, or if you're already doing that, don't be such a miser that you don't get to enjoy life on top of that too. So there, and that's just one little tidbit that that was really good in there.
Yeah, definitely. Oh, yeah. That's there's so many little tidbits in here. Like I said, we could definitely talk for a while on this one. Hence why it's in the first night pack. And one thing that I put a little star next to here is, for true financial freedom, it has less to do with the amount of money that we make and more to do with how we make our money. And he goes into talking about carrying buckets and building a pipeline, something from Robert Kiyosaki's 4 quadrants concept, basically. And it actually, if you look at the Prezi, they even have now put in the little bucket filling icons and stuff. They've been in there for a little bit, but he talks a lot about, because that's about that type of a concept, simply because that's one thing that people don't understand about what we do. And if you've heard the audio, it's in actually the step 2, the 95% thinking versus 5% thinking that we've talked about before. That goes right along the lines of with the carrying buckets as well, because the majority of our population, they carry buckets. I mean, it's just that they grew up in a bucket carrying scenario. That's what they've learned, is how to carry buckets, and maybe they haven't surrounded themselves with enough association to people who are building pipelines. So it's just kind of a lost concept to much of the working world, whether we are employed by someone else or whether we've pretty much purchased a job by setting up our own self-employment, and we bought ourselves a job in order to basically carry our own buckets or help others carry our buckets, basically. But it's so much different than a pipeline, and that's one huge piece that we need to understand here, is that we're not just looking to trade our time for money. We're looking to set up a system, and this company, more than anything I've ever worked with, has a system in place to help create that pipeline. you think of how long this whole thing has been in creation for the creating of life leadership, and how far back some of this info goes, and all the things that Orrin and Chris have created over the years, and where we are now and why. I mean, talk about creating a system. I mean, I guess we shouldn't really expect anything else when we got a group of engineers building the system. So it's actually a huge benefit to us that we have engineers building the back end of this. So that was one thing that I put a huge star next to, because it's also why that's in this particular audio, is because people that are seeing this or hearing this for the first time and then getting that first night pack, that's a one point that needs to be driven home, because if that doesn't connect with them, they're not going to know why they should really do this, or why it's any different than going to their job on the regular anyway. So that needs to be something that's really driven home, and is a point that I always make to people when I'm talking to them. Anyone else have something they'd like to share from the audio this week? Russ. Perfect. Let me unmute you, buddy. How you doing?
Oh, good. Yourself?
Fantastic. Good to see you.
Good. No, he brought a point on there once, or I don't know where in the CD it was, but talked about my dad was a contractor, right? So he had employees working for him while they learned their trade there, and some of them went off and started their own businesses, which then became competition instead of being competition for each other. And he says, he's talking about how, we'll cheer on the guy underneath us to get bigger than us, because it's going to benefit you in the long run anyway. So that's a big point of difference there. I mean,
yeah, it's huge. I love that you brought that up. I mean, it's some businesses, you're bringing people up, you're mentoring them, but you're basically just mentoring a competitor. And maybe you've seen that even in your experience in the past. I know I've seen it in my experience, but have you seen that in things that you've been involved with in the past, Russ?
Oh, absolutely. Yep. Very much so. Yep.
Yeah.
You teach somebody all your stuff, and then all of a sudden they're competition against you. So, yep, absolutely.
And imagine what that has to feel like too. And he makes a little point of it in here, but what that has to feel like if you're the person who is kind of training your I guess competition, essentially, you kind of end up playing it a little closer to the vest, as he calls it. You don't want to maybe share all your little tricks and tips that are successful, because you kind of know that you're doing that in the corporate world. You have people that are maybe a little further up in the pyramid that they don't want you to be competition for their job. It's not only they may not break away and go do something else, but they definitely don't want you taking over their spot. So, and I mean, I can speak from that as a chiropractor myself. It's generally what people do right out of school is we go and we associate with another doc in another office, and then we kind of learn how the office runs, and eventually the chiropractor gets kind of tired of being like, well, I'm kind of just making this small salary compared to if I was running my own gig. Like, what am I doing here?
Absolutely.
So totally happens all the time, I think, about every profession. But with this, I mean, we're encouraged and even incentivized to mentor the people below us. And I mean, because they can pass us. I mean, whoever does the work, it's such a free market system. And a huge draw for me is the free market aspect of this. So I appreciate you bringing that up, Russ.
No problem.
Anything else for you there?
Nope.
Okay, thanks for sharing, Russ. See any other hands that bring up any ideas for anyone else that they want to share? Is that your hand up, Stanley? I can barely see it. I'll unmute you here. There, go ahead.
Okay, he also brought up other things that talking about is helping people in in what their goals are too, so forth. And I thought about that because he worked on his own goal, his wife, and then to his kids, and then took them out of school, to teach them what the world is about.
Right? How cool is that, right?
And then put them back in the school again. Out in the world, because that's what a lot of it is. We got to get out there to the world.
Yeah, he's a great example of that, being able to get out, not only share with others, but to be able to have options, to be able to share with his kids. different cultures. And I mean, growing up in Iowa myself, that was nothing that I was exposed to growing up. But as I got older, those different cultural experiences, I see a tremendous value of where I've gotten to at this point. And I just, yeah, that story just brings up, to me, it brings up just the point of having options, to be able to choose your path, choose what you want to give your kids, have options for your kids or your family or your grandkids, whatever it is that drives you, for sure. Anything else on that, Stanley?
No. Okay,
perfect. Well, I'll go ahead and mute you out here so that I can see who's raising their hand next. Colin looks very intent right now, so I have a feeling he might want to pitch in. Anything you got, Colin, on this one? I can unmute you if you like. Hold on. Where are you? There you are. I'm going to unmute you. You always have some really positive stuff to share, so I'm going to bring you in.
Yeah, I got a whole lot. I can't really say a whole lot here. I'm at my life-sucking job, but this is an inspiration because normally I'm working with my manager, and this guy he's kind of been here for 26 years longer than anyone else, and he kind of let me tune into the Zoomcast. But
cool.
Yeah, I just very inspiring to be able to check this out and while I'm working. But I definitely need to get out of this, so I'm going to be doing everything I can to help everyone here. So, but yeah, I can't share a whole lot.
No, that's totally fine, Colin. I don't want to put you on the spot too much on that. So I'm glad you're able to tune in, and thankfully your boss has given me a little bit of freedom there as well. Has helped me be able to tune in on that. So one other thing that I want to bring up as a point, and maybe someone else will this will keep audio interference here. Got it. Okay, so basically the point of like the be, do, and have part of this audio I thought was particularly interesting for our business specifically, simply because in order to have what you want out of life, you need to first become who you need to be to live that dream life. And we don't all start there. Actually, no one starts there. It's a process for all of us that we all go through. We all have our own struggles, all have our own ups and downs, and life is definitely a bit of a roller coaster for all of us. But that in order for you to get to the life that you have in your head that is your dream, and let's be clear too, you need to clarify your dream, because if you don't have kind of an end goal of where you're looking to get to, it's really hard to get there. So make sure that you've clarified your dream before looking to become it. But in order to get to that point, we all need to have a few more skills generally than we have at this point in order to get to that point. So in a free market scenario, and this is one of my favorite quotes, and I've heard it before, but in a free market scenario, we're paid for solving problems. So what we shouldn't be asking for is less problems. We should be asking for more skills. And that's exactly what the Total Access does, what the marketing system does. You know, we're getting the 8 discs in the mail. So, personally, I love the Freedom series. That's a big point of passion for myself, as well as the financial fitness. I mean, so many in the relationships. I mean, there's so many things that fire me up about this company that it's hard to really pick just one. But one thing I really want to point out, though, is that, and I don't know what subscriptions you guys are on or what you're plugging into, but in order to really grow and build this business and get to your dream spot, we have to be willing to up our skills a little bit and be able to plug into whether it be Total Access or one of the subscriptions, because that's the only way that we're going to know what it is that we have to share with other people, and we're going to grow in the process. The kind of back-end part that happens when we do that, when we start plugging in consistently to good information, we start being able to more easily share it with others. And not only that, but people can start to see the change in us, and whether it be at our job or just our friends are noticing a little bit of difference. I know around here, you know, when I started in this, my family and friends noticed that I'm definitely reading a lot more. That wasn't necessarily my strong suit, but now that I have been reading more, I mean, it's definitely getting noticed. And that's also how this business grows, because people will do what you do. It's really hard for them to do what you're telling them to do if you're not doing it yourself. So in a kind of building a volunteer army of this type of a business where people are choosing to plug in, since this is very free market scenario, people do make the choice on whether or not they're looking to improve. They make the choice on whether or not they're looking to talk and inspire and help other people. It's all a choice, and we have to be plugging into, you know, Rascal Radio, I think between Rascal Radio and Total Access, I don't know what the best setup is for as far as the highest amount of value in one spot. But those two things, plugging those into on the regular and learning this information goes farther than anything else we can do. So I thought that bead you got to be it first, and then you got to go do the actions if you want to have where you want to get to. So that's my my soapbox on that, simply because I'm seeing the difference in my life and seeing the difference in people on this team, hearing about promotions and all the positive things it's doing for people, that I couldn't help but bring that up. Anybody have a couple comments on that, even if you've already spoken? John? Go ahead and unmute yourself.
So you brought up a good point, and part of that is the association and how we edify our upline and even our downline. I'm going to kind of share a little bit of story of my youth. My parents had taken in some of my friends, and they lived with us. And one of the things my mom always busted my chops about was I had to set the example. And it didn't dawn on me that they were following some of my leads or responding to my parents like I would respond to my parents. And it wasn't until later in my life that I realized that you have the power. Each and every one of us on this call leading our team, you have the power to either project a positive view or a negative view for your team. So you really need to be conscious of what's happening around you, and setting that example is really important. Edifying your upline is to your downline is huge, because they will watch what you're doing and follow that lead. And then you need to encourage your downline and recognize their achievements and stuff. And so setting that example is really important, and I'm learning every day how important that is. If you really want to grow this team, you've got to, like Josh and everybody here has been saying, you've got to be on Total Access, the marketing system. You got to read great books and like this, and associate and edify your team as much as you can positively. That's really hard, is to stay focused and positive. Negative stuff comes way too easy for people to just spew out. But you got to keep focused on the positive, and that's really what I wanted to say. So thanks.
Yes, definitely. Thank you for sharing that. Anyone else? Just love hearing stories about how things have impacted people's lives and their past experiences, and getting different people's perspectives on these different issues, because we all can learn from each other's stories. Don't see any hands going up right now, so I will actually just move to one other quick thing that this audio pointed out, that I can set my notes down for this one for sure, because this is one thing that fires me up about the industry as a whole, is understanding why a company would choose to work in this manner and work through the network marketing type of field in comparison to setting up a traditional business, is because it creates a win-win for both the company as a whole, because they're not paying middlemen. It's direct sales. It's going right to the end user. And also it provides an opportunity, especially in today's information age, that it doesn't matter what kind of small town you're from or where you live, big communities can grow because it's so easy to connect with others. And as long as you're looking to put value out to others, you're going to have a group growing in a lot of different places. And some of the notes that specifically that he made in this one is that why a company would choose this is that word of mouth is super effective. We get to actually be demonstrative and showing other people kind of what we do compared to it just being like an advertisement. And people are paid when sales are made. So the company, it's not spending a bunch of money on salaries and things of maybe unproductive and unplugged in people. I know I can think of many examples where I have a few friends that one of them actually was considering buying into this company as one of, it's a lighting company actually, as one of the basically a leader of it or an owner of it. But I know there are a lot of different places in that business that are very ineffective right now. People are actively disengaged from their jobs. And so he was kind of at a crossroads, because he's doing a lot of the work, but at the same time, not a lot of people are engaged in it. And compared to this type of model where commissions are paid right after the sale is actually made. It creates a win-win for both the company to grow and for anyone else to grow. And compared to the corporate arena, the other thing that they bring up at the end of this audio is simply, if we're talking about regular corporate structure with a CEO and a couple VPs and, you know, maybe a couple directors under that, like, those positions aren't necessarily open. It's something that like, you can't really get there while they're still sitting there. So it ends up being a non-productive thing for the company as a whole, because whether you call it jealousy or whatever you want it to call it, there isn't an opportunity for the people that are just starting to pass the people that are kind of started ahead of them. Whereas in this industry, it's completely based on effort. While we work with each other and help each other out, we're incentivized not only for upline to help build downline, but also to help them actually pass us and be even more successful than we are. Both sides are incentivized to do that. So it's different than any other model out there. And I call it my poker brain, since like my analytical part of my brain that kind of gets the gears running really quickly. It's that kind of stuff where we can help anyone succeed as long as they're hungry to go learn how to do it. So one of my favorite parts about this whole industry: create leverage, provide hunger. You don't need to kick someone else out of their seat in order for you to succeed. Anyone else have anything on that in particular? Stanley, I'll open your line up here. Go ahead.
Well, I mean, you brought up quite a bit of things, because, you know, that helps out a lot. You know, we've got the university, but you know, learn how to speak to people and to learn a language, a different language, quite a few different languages if we wanted to. So we have a lot of, I don't know how you say, you know, just a lot of avenues to, you know, do things and help other people if we want, and help ourselves.
Fantastic. It's exactly true. And it's one of the things that I get most passionate about this industry is it's just opportunity, it's choices, it's free market, it's freedom. And I love that one of our pillars is freedom. And we have a huge problem in our country today with debt and people not understanding what it takes to get out of debt. And we're all kind of fighting against the financial matrix to some degree or another. And as we can, I mean, I look at my kids, and as we continue down these next couple generations, if the public isn't exposed to this stuff and doesn't really understand what's really going on, I know that next generation is going to be even in a worse spot than than we are, or even like where the boomers are right now. It's on gradual decline. And one seminar I went to recently showed that when it comes to reading and writing and math now, China is #1 in all three categories, and we've dropped down well below 20 in many of those areas. So we're not educating ourselves as a population, and that's what we're here for, is to lead a mission, and that's what gets me fired up. Anyone else? Well, I appreciate you guys being here. I don't want to keep you too long. It's 8:29. Looks like we finished right under the gun here for a half-hour call. Definitely appreciate you guys plugging in, and look forward to next week. And I believe next week is it you next week, Colin? Give me a nod. Looks like Colin's busy, but we'll have another great audio for you next week, and look forward to seeing you guys again. Have a great week, guys.